Hello friends, welcome to my channel Creating Essence. I am Megan and I am so glad you are here today. Today I wanted to talk to you about a burning question that I get asked all the time, and that is, why don't you do homeschool co-ops? For those of you who don't know, a homeschool co-op is when a group of parents put together a group usually with a specific focus or goal in mind, and they come together regularly, whether it be once a week, several times a week, bi-weekly, and they work together to teach each other's children. Now sometimes this is all subjects, sometimes this is core subjects, and sometimes it's just the subjects that can be a little bit harder to fulfill that may be state required or otherwise, things like music, art, physical education, foreign languages, things of that nature. If you've been around here long, you know I was homeschooled through 8th grade, and I actually was part of a homeschool co-op. It was the highlight of my homeschool week. In New York State, there was an organization called LEAH, L-E-A-H, for Loving Education at Home. Our co-op was an independent group, and then we became a LEAH group. We met at a local church that rented out their spaces to us for those purposes. They had a gymnasium, a basic kitchen, and pretty large Sunday school classrooms, and that's what we used. We did music. There were basic instrument lessons and singing, and we did art, which was everything from basic arts and crafts to learning the basics of mechanical drawing and things of that nature. And then there was physical education, and we were split up by grade levels, so it was groups of classes that parents teamed up and taught together, and that fulfilled our New York State required credits for those subjects. It was a lot of fun. It was always the highlight of my week when we would go to homeschool group, and it doesn't really make sense that I would rob my kids of that, right? Well, here's the deal. When I first started homeschooling, I, like a lot of other homeschool parents, thought that to properly homeschool your kids, you needed a co-op. So I started searching for a co-op in my area, and we were still in New York then. There was one group in the area, but I just wasn't impressed. I had to pay to attend even one group just to see how it ran, because that was like their weekly dues, and they didn't allow visitors to come for free. I was told I could go to their annual planning meeting, but that didn't really give me an idea of how the group went. And just for various reasons, we did not end up joining that co-op. And as New York State is not a homeschool friendly state, it is not super common up there, so there weren't many groups to choose from. I know from talking to my sisters who still live in New York that homeschool groups are becoming more prevalent, and the fad of classical conversations has taken over, so there are always a couple of those around to choose from as well. Now, if those things work for your family, awesome. We have looked into homeschool groups here in Southern Virginia, and once again, we've just yet to find anything that meets our family's needs. I don't feel compelled to find a co-op just to have my kids in a co-op. Their needs are being met very well. We get tons of socialization through just meetups with friends, and I'm a member of MOPS, which is Mothers of Preschoolers. They have regular play dates and group activities, and all of the homeschooled older siblings also attend those things, so my kids get a lot of interaction from that. We go to the park, we go to the stores, we also go to church and do a lot of church activities. Like our oldest daughter is in youth group now. So our kids get lots of opportunities for interaction with peers every single week. As far as meeting their educational needs, my kids really aren't lacking. If they have an interest in something, we say, great, let's dig in. And we do. This winter, our oldest daughter said she wanted to learn the violin. We pursued it. She was actually given a violin by friends who have very small homeschool kids and just thought that was awesome that she wanted to learn violin, and they had one they weren't using, so they gave it to her. And the homeschool community is a lot like that. Whether we're in co-ops or not, we're all, for the most part, supporting each other and encouraging, whether it's an organized situation or not. Ultimately, we have yet to find a group that is not somehow affiliated with an organization we don't want to be a part of, like Classical Conversations, or it just doesn't meet our needs as a large family, as a family with older kids or younger kids. So we just make do ourselves. We've done a school year of classes at a time in various ways through different means, not necessarily with homeschoolers, but when we found something in the community that our kids wanted to do, we've signed up for it, and we've gladly driven them every week to their classes. But in the end, we need a flexible schedule because we do have little kids. We do have an older child with autism. I have autoimmune disease, which means my body is not always feeling awesome. And I guess in some ways, especially between my oldest son's needs and my own health needs, I'm kind of a commitment phobe. I do not like being unable to fulfill my commitments. And if I'm going to commit to something, I'm going to do it wholeheartedly and show up with bells on to the best of my ability. But we just have not found something that allows the flexibility we need and meets the educational needs of my children. And I don't feel like we need to. People ask me often, oh, what homeschool co-op do you do? Like, none. We're rogue like that. We have several friends with kids our kids' age, and some are homeschooled, some are not. We will just say, hey, let's meet at the park. Sometimes it's right when school lets out so that their public school children can come with us. Sometimes it's during the day, or we'll just have families over for dinner, and they'll come over when school gets out. The kids will play all afternoon, and then we'll have dinner together, and they go home with tired and happy kids, and our kids just get a bath and hop into bed. But I really just wanted to make this video to let you all know that you do not need to be in a homeschool co-op to have children that are thriving and homeschooling. When people ask about socialization, which is the immense cliche, they don't really know what they're asking. If you look at the textbook definition of socialization, it means learning the norms and customs of society. There's a lot of norms in society I don't want my kids learning. They get all of that and more in all of our regular interactions without being in a classroom with kids exactly their age for 5 hours a day, or doing the same thing but with homeschooled kids once or twice a week. No one who has ever met my kids has truly wondered how their socialization skills were, even my son with autism. When we were in New York, I would often get asked by random strangers, oh, but what about socialization? I would point out right there in that moment, as you can see from the full conversations my children are having with you about being homeschooled, they are not lacking in social skills of any kind. And without fail, they all kind of nod their head and realize what a foolish question that was. But I truly believe you don't need someone else teaching your children subjects just as an arbitrary rule that they can do it better. If you need help and you need to outsource a subject for your children that you're struggling to teach them, fantastic! That's great! Join a co-op that does that, get a tutor, combine forces with one other homeschool family that doesn't struggle in that way, or that has some kind of education or background that sets them up in a way to be able to teach your child that specific subject that you all are struggling in. But you really do not need a co-op for your kids to thrive. One of the beauties of homeschooling is that it is flexible and it works for your family. Your children learn on their schedule, on their terms, and with such incredible depth that is just not possible in the public school classroom, purely because there's so many children and one teacher just doing his or her best to get the basics across. I would love to hear in the comments below if you are or were at any time a homeschooler. Did you co-op? Your thoughts about it? Thank you so much for sticking around today, friends. Please give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Share it for anyone you think it might be encouraging to, and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. Bye-bye.